All right, hello and welcome back. Brett here with clickmill.co. In this video, I want to talk about my all-time favorite mental model, and I have never heard this anywhere else. This is something that I have pulled from my own experience and my own reading, actually, in Christian books on healthy relationships with family and specifically in marriage relationships. And it is called win-win thinking. Now, I'm going to put it in context of a marriage relationship. Many marriages, and this may be your marriage, and so this will help you in that area. But in many relationships, what happens is we unknowingly make win-lose decisions. And so it's like, well, I want to eat here. Well, I want to eat here. So if we eat where, let's say, I want to eat at one place and my wife wants to eat at a different place, and that's all we critical think here. If we eat at her place, I lose and she wins. And if we go to eat at my place, I win and she loses. What happens when this is our base level for decision making? When one of us always wins and one of us always loses, one of us is always getting our needs met at the expense of someone else's needs. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means when someone has a need that is very important to them, they are going to need to fight to have that need met. Well, what happens? They then are going to come to the table and fight to get their need met. And at some point, every decision becomes a battle because what we have said in the relationship is that when someone wins, the other person loses. And what happens? Well, I don't want to be the person that loses and never gets my needs met. So now I'm going to fight. And what's going to happen? She's going to fight harder. And then we get into these sort of like explosive blowouts that are crazy town, that are not healthy. They're toxic. Well, what happens if you were to change? This is family systems theory. If you change one element of the system and you say, instead of a win-lose, we're only going to do things that are a win-win. It has to be a win for you and it has to be a win for me. That is a much smaller set of decisions we can make because, decisions where one of us wins and one of us loses is like this many decisions. That's like any decision. But if both of us win, we have just narrowed the possible decisions to like this, it's tiny. But we look at each other and we say, listen, I always want your needs to be met and I always want my needs to be met. That would be great. And ideally, and that's not to say that when you get to a great place, you can't intentionally just say, you know what, let's do it. Let's do it your way. I want to do the thing that you love. And that's grace. And we can do that. But for many relationships that are struggling, you can't really start there. That is a place of abundance. That is very hard to do for people who have difficult relationships. And so what do? You start making decisions where both people win all the time. So they know in every decision that they make together as one flesh, it is going to be an awesome outcome for both that they can both be excited about. And then what happens? It is not, I need to fight you to get my needs met. It's, hold on, we need to come together and we need to brainstorm. One of the books that I read, and forgive me, I do not remember which book it is. I want to say it is Love Busters, which is a great book. At some point, we'll be getting all of these books in here so you guys can be reading these books as well. But we need to brainstorm with abandon. We need to think of every possible option until we find the one that is a win for us both. And it is so hard to do when you start because you've just never thought of it that way. But when you agree, we're not going to do anything until we can both win enthusiastically, like we're both super excited. We're going to brainstorm until we find it. You will begin to find them. It actually requires a different way of thinking about problems. And as you develop it, and you only accept win-wins for both you and your spouse, suddenly you're on a team because you're on a hunt together to benefit each other all of the time. And now you don't need to fight about stuff. The fighting starts to subside because why? Because you're both winning all the time. And you actually become a team trying to find the few and best opportunities. So this is win-win thinking. Now, what happens when people win, and I've seen this in my own relationship, as my wife wins more and more, she wants to come and bring the issues to me more often because she knows when she engages with me, she wins. Well, imagine that, and imagine that with your ministry or your Christian business. And for me, I have a rule. When people do business with me, they win. And my goal is to make them win more than I win. And that is a very different way of doing business. And so what happens over time as people work with me, they go, it seems like every time I go over to Brett, I come out better the other side. I don't know how that guy makes it work on his end. I'm just winning because people think win lose. They think if they're winning, I must be sacrificing something. I only put myself and our team here at ClickMill in situations to win, but the people we engage with, I put them in positions where they win more than we win. And so where do they want to go? They always want to come back to us. They always want to come back and talk with me. The interns, for example, they come in, they intern for hundreds of hours, over 500 hours over 6 months, they intern. And many of them choose to stay without pay for a year. And they don't have to go past 6 months. Why? Because the win is bigger for them. And so when you can begin structuring your ministry and saying, is this a win for you? And if they're like, yeah, it's okay. No, we're not going to do that. It's not going to be okay. It is going to be so good for you, it will blow your mind. That's how good it's got to be. You have to be jumping up and down and saying, please, 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 let's do it that way. That's when we'll do it. And when you get that, and everybody around you is super excited because every time, every decision you make, they win. They don't understand that you win too. They don't really need to. They may assume you lose. I've had interns that have been here for 6 months and they go, well, you've already put so much time into me. I really don't want to be a burden. That's actually a quote from an intern. And I was like, oh, we have not talked about win-win yet, have we? This is really good for me too. This is good for you. This is good for me. You stick around. I will continue to invest in you because the returns you're bringing into us are way more than I'm spending on you. And the returns for you are way more than you're putting in. That's what you're looking for. And so win-win opportunities, when you start and you make a rule and you say, in my ministry, in my business, I will never operate on a win-lose where I win and someone else loses. Because every time you do that, someone says, yeah, that was a bad deal. I don't want to go talk to them again. When you flip it, everybody wants to be around you all of the time. You become the center of value. And as you get better and better at it, you can create more complex winning situations, a win-win-win. This is an example of a win-win-win. We charge $150 an hour right now for consulting. And we have to charge that because we have to have income coming in. Well, that's a win for us to charge it, but the consulting, it better be really good. And it is. And so ministry leaders are really excited when they pay for our consulting rate. Well, it's a win when I can talk to a ministry leader and I can say, hey, are you okay if we use this training as an example for, for our other people watching online in our training course? And are you okay if we take this Google Grant build and we make that available to other people and we'll actually discount it a little bit so that other people can learn how to reach people with the gospel message online with these Google Grant accounts? Now we have a win-win-win. Why? Because I'm still making enough that it's okay. And I'm excited. And I get to help more people, which is exciting. They get to have a little bit of a discount. And also what happens, they get to have their ministry as the example for how other ministries are going to go out and reach the world. So it's a win in a couple areas because they get free publicity. They get, their ministry is the feature. So everybody knows their ministry after they watch these trainings. And then also they're helping other ministries reach the world. So that's like a win. That's like a bunch of wins on their side. And then you get to watch these courses and you get to see these live trainings where people ask questions that are maybe more helpful than something I would have thought of by myself. And you get to get access to the videos for less than $150 an hour. So it's a huge win for you. That's a win-win-win. And when you start thinking in win-wins and win-win-wins and everybody wins, you can start orchestrating value that nobody else can do. And people will gravitate to you every time. And so this is another mental decision-making model called the win-win decision-making model. In my opinion, this is the most powerful one that you can have. And I think this is what Jesus does in the New Testament all over the place. Everyone around him wins. And he wins too, because his goal is to bring God into relationship with people. And so even if that requires him to sacrifice and put resources into preaching to the 4,000, or, letting these 12 guys who are goofballs follow him around for 3 years and it's exhausting, he's winning and they're winning. So everybody's winning in Jesus's ministry. And what happens? Thousands of people follow him around the wilderness. So with that, I would encourage you to implement a hard win-win policy in your life and in your ministry. And you're only going to make decisions that only create value that not only create the value for you, but create at least as much for other people, if not more. Restrict your life to those options, and you'll see growth as you move forward. Anyway, God bless. Thank you so much for being in this video. I'll see you in the next one.